Welcome all. I'm now going to be reviewing trades in the past 3 days, starting with the trade between the Detroit Red Wings and the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks have acquired Philip Hronek, a fourth round draft pick in 2023. In exchange, they gave up a first round pick in 2023 and the second round pick in 2023 as well. For this move, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me, but obviously I'm not a GM. The Canucks, they're kind of like in limbo. They can't decide if they want to be a rebuild team or if they want to try to contend next year. Now, they have the team and the talent to do it, but they just have been so inconsistent the last couple of seasons that a lot of people, especially myself, were speculating that maybe they try to move on from the guys like JT Miller or Brock Besser, who obviously still have a few more years on their contract. So, again, a very confusing move in my opinion, but again, I'm not a GM, so what do I really know? The next trade after that happened between the Ottawa Senators and the Arizona Coyotes. And as I've said many times, that the Arizona Coyotes are in a rebuild. They've been in a rebuild for quite some time, so they're obviously going to be giving up a lot of veteran players and talent. And obviously, they gave up their best defenseman, Jacob Chichurin. Here's how the trade went down. So the Senators got him a first round pick in 2000. Sorry, they got him, and in exchange, they gave up their first round pick in 2023, their second round pick in 2024, and their second round pick in 2026. So to say the Coyotes have lots of draft picks would be an understatement. The next trade between the LA Kings and the Buffalo Sabres were basically just for prospects. The Kings have now got the rights to goaltender Eric Portillo in exchange for a third round pick in the 2023 draft. The next trade I'm going to discuss happened between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Vegas Golden Knights got Teddy Bluegar from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for defenseman Peter Dilberator and a third round pick in the 2024 draft. So obviously for the Vegas Golden Knights, they're most likely to be making the postseason. So getting a little bit of, I guess you can kind of say, veteran presence. Obviously Bluegar has been a part of the Penguins, and I could be mistaken, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the 2017 Stanley Cup winning team. Oh, wasn't expecting that to top over. There, let's try that again. So he has a bit of experience when it comes to the playoffs. I could be mistaken on that front, but just obviously a nice bottom six guy to have. So Vegas is pushing for playoffs, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, I have no idea what they're doing. I'll get into them in just a little bit. So the next trade happened between the Sharks and the Lightning, and basically the Jets. So I'll pull up the Tampa Bay, who they got from the Sharks, and it was Michael. Oh, let's see if I can pull up his name here. Michael Eisenmont, a prospect, came over from the San Jose Sharks. In exchange, the Tampa Bay Lightning traded away Vladislav Namestnikov to the San Jose Sharks, and that happened on the 1st. And now that today's the 3rd, 2 days later, Namestnikov was then traded to the Winnipeg Jets. I will pull him up here in just a quick second. In exchange, the San Jose Sharks got a 4th round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. So, to me, it almost seems like wherever Namestnikov starts the season off, he's not guaranteed to stay there. The guy's been on a lot of teams for a lot of years, so there's no guarantee that when he signed a contract in the offseason that he's going to be staying with that team at the end of the year. The next trade happened between the Anaheim Ducks and the Buffalo Sabres. Basically, just a couple of prospects. The Ducks acquired Chase Prisky from the Sabres in exchange for Austin Strand. Yet another trade happened between the Dallas Stars and the San Jose Sharks. Again, just a couple of prospects. Dallas got forward Scott Reedy from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Jacob Pedersen. Now, this one here, I think these are also prospects, so I feel like I'm going to be stuck on Vladislav Namestnikov for quite some time because I'm not going to show up all the different prospects and all the AHL players. Between the Calgary Flames and the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Calgary Flames got forward Dryden Hunt in exchange for Radim Zohorna. Finally, I can move on to an actual NHL player who's on an NHL team. So this trade happened between the Minnesota Wild and the Buffalo Sabres. And I pulled up the wrong team, as both these teams are obviously contending for a playoff spot. Obviously, they both could potentially get in, but there's no guarantees at this point. The big name that was traded was Jordan Greenway. So here's how the trade went down. So the Sabres acquired Jordan Greenway from the Minnesota Wild, and in return, they got a second round. Minnesota got a second round pick in 2023, a fifth round pick in the 2024 NHL draft. So 2 picks for one guy. Not too shabby. Kind of like a top 6, top 9 guy. He can kind of go fit in anywhere. So if the Sabres are pushing for a playoff spot, maybe he can add a little bit of toughness, a little bit of grit, and help them get over the hump. Now, here's why I'm thinking that they made the trade is because now that Minnesota dealt him away, they then they did a trade with the Detroit Red Wings, and they got a Stanley Cup winner in Oscar Sundqvist. Obviously, he was part of the Blues back in the 2019, back in the 2019 club. So he has a bit of leadership and experience, to say the least. He spent his last 2 seasons, I do believe, with the Red Wings. So a fresh start on a team that's contending for a playoff spot, guaranteed to be in the top 3, if not at least in the wild card spot. So a pretty good move for the Minnesota Wild. The Ottawa Senators are another team that are trying to make a push for the playoffs. Whether it happens or not is really up in the air. I will see if I can pull up who they got, as it was Patrick Brown from the Philadelphia Flyers. Here's how the trade went down. So the Senators acquired Patrick Brown in exchange for a 6th round pick in the 2023 draft. The next one I'm going to discuss happened between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Anaheim Ducks. So first I'm going to pull up the Ducks. I'll show you who they got, and then I'll go over to the Penguins right afterwards. I believe it was McGinn, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Brock McGinn. He is now a member of the Anaheim Ducks, and the big name going towards the Pittsburgh side of things is defenseman. I believe it's Dmitry Kulikov. I'll see if I can pull up his name right there. So both these teams are obviously fighting for a playoff spot. Minnesota's more likely to make it. Pittsburgh's now in a wild card spot. So whether they make it or not, it's going to be tough. They've been making a lot of big trades and bringing some big names to help get over the hump and hopefully get out of the first round, which they haven't done since 2018. So here's how the full trade goes down. So Pittsburgh obviously acquires Dmitry Kulikov from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Brock McGinn and a 3rd round pick in the 2024 draft. Couple of minor trades happened between first one between the Colorado Avalanche and the New York Rangers. The Avalanche have now acquired Gustav Rydal from the Rangers in exchange for Anton Blitt. The next trade between the Nashville Predators and the Buffalo Sabres. The Predators have now gotten Rasmus Asplund in exchange for a 7th round pick in the 2025 draft. Chicago Blackhawks and the LA Kings had a trade. Austin Wagner is now a part of the Blackhawks, and in exchange, the Los Angeles Kings get future considerations. The New York Rangers have traded for Wyatt Kalynuk from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for future considerations as well. All right, now I feel like I can finally go back to showing you players on certain teams. So the next one happened between the Arizona Coyotes and the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames, hold on a second. Acquire these guys. So the Arizona Coyotes got Nick Ritchie. Hold on a second. I think I screwed this up. The Arizona Coyotes got Brett Ritchie and Connor McKay. So let me see if I can pull him up here really quickly. Yep, so there's Brett Ritchie, obviously a former member of the Flames. And then defenseman Connor McKay, who should be right about there. Yeah, and in return, the Calgary Flames got the other Ritchie brother. It was Nick Ritchie. So he's now right here. And the other player in that was Troy Stetcher. I just passed him. So basically a forward for a forward and a defenseman for a defenseman. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe both Ritchie brothers happen to be siblings. So how ironic that 2 siblings are getting traded for each other and going on their opposing teams. And then by far the biggest name that probably was dealt today, and I had a feeling that today was going to be pretty boring when it came to big name trades, as I believe a lot of the big name trades players were already dealt prior to the trade deadline, which kind of defeats the purpose, as the last trade was between the Minnesota Wild and the Anaheim Ducks. The Minnesota Wild got John Klingberg, as you can see on the screen, from Anaheim in exchange for defenseman Andrei Suster, rights to forward Nikita Nesterenko, and a 4th-round pick in the 2025 draft. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I am now completely done and caught up with the draft. Sorry, not the draft, but the trades. And moving forward, I'll be doing my reviews after the 60-game mark, the 70-game mark at the end of the season, and my previews for the playoffs will be in about a month or so from now. So thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, take care.